In our episodes, we discuss cases and topics that might be distressing or disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. So, in my usual episodes, I am either interviewing someone or covering a cold case. But there's a lot that is going on, and there's a lot of current cases that need attention. And so, I wanted to try out doing another weekly episode where I cover more recent cases that need attention and then kind of do a wrap up in other crime related news and just anything else that's going on in the world. So at the end of this, let me know what you think about it. And if there's anything else you want to hear about, let me know and we can make this whatever we want. So let's first get into missing people. And I'm going to focus on missing children right now. And there are so many missing kids in this country at any given time. And most of these cases have little to no information out there. Let's start first in Louisville, Kentucky. Leland Buchanan has been missing since November 25th of this year. He is a 16-year-old male, and there is zero information out there. I don't even have what he was last wearing, nothing. So if you have any information at all about Leland Buchanan, please contact the Louisville Metro Police Department at 502-574-7111. Now, this one is going back a couple of months. So Olivia Mae Frederick is a 5-year-old female, and she was last seen on September 20th of this year in Barnardsville, North Carolina. The only thing I can find is that she may be in the company of her mother. If you have any information at all about this missing 5-year-old girl, please contact the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office at 828-250-6670. And lastly, a brother and sister, Andreas and Lilyanna Enriquez, were last seen on October 10th of this year. Andreas is a 9-year-old male and Lilyanna is an 11-year-old female. They were last seen in Phoenix, Arizona. And I cannot find any information at all on what might have happened to them. I don't know with any of these children who it was that reported them missing. Nothing. There's almost no information. And that's why, even though this is a really quick segment, I think it's really important to highlight all of these missing kids. And so if you have any information on the whereabouts of Andreas and Lilyanna Enriquez, please contact the Phoenix Police Department at 602-262-6151. And I would encourage you all, if you are interested in learning more about missing persons cases, to go on to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. You can filter dates, ages, and everything, and it shows a list of all of the current missing persons. It's probably not an exhaustive list, but I would encourage you to go look at it. That's where I'm getting all of this information. If you are watching this on YouTube, I will also have a picture up of their missing kid flyer so you can see what they look like, and it'll have contact information as well. Now, let's get into some current news in the crime world. So, first, I have 2 stories from Hawaii. So, Hawaii crime boss Michael Miske was found dead in his cell at the Federal Detention Center in Honolulu on December 1st. And this is according to the Bureau of Prisons. Now, he was pronounced dead just after 10 a.m., and his cause of death remains unknown. And from what I read, it's not known if he was on suicide watch at all. Now, Michael Miske was convicted of 13 charges in July of this year, including a racketeering conspiracy, murder in the aid of racketeering, and kidnapping resulting in death. So, Michael Miske, he ran a known criminal organization, which was referred to in an indictment as the Miske Enterprise. And this apparently ran from the late 90s until 2020 when he was arrested on kidnapping and murder charges. So, Michael Miske had essentially organized the kidnapping and murder of 21-year-old Jonathan Frazier, who was best friends with Miske's son, Caleb. Now, Caleb and Jonathan Frazier were actually in a car crash together in November of 2015, and this car crash resulted in the death of Caleb Miske. So it's believed that Michael Miske organized the murder of Jonathan Frazier because Miske believed he was responsible for his son Caleb's death. In other kind of Hawaii related news, one case that's been really circling in the media is the disappearance of Hannah Kobayashi. And now, just this week, police are saying that Hannah, a 30-year-old woman from Maui who vanished 3 weeks ago, is voluntarily missing. So, Hannah Kobayashi went missing when she didn't make her connecting flight to New York on November 8th. And according to AP News, she was traveling for a job and to visit relatives. Now, she told her family she would sleep in the Los Angeles airport that night. And her family apparently assumed that she was on standby for another flight, but the next day she told them that she would be sightseeing in LA. According to the family, they said on November 11th, they started receiving strange, cryptic, and alarming text messages from her phone that referenced her being intercepted as she got on a metro train and that she was scared someone might be stealing her identity. Now, police said on the 11th, Hannah actually went back to LAX to retrieve her luggage, which she had sent back to LA from New York, where it had been sent on that original flight that she missed. There was a large search effort for Hannah once I think they stopped receiving communications from her. And tragically, Hannah's father, Ryan Kobayashi, who was heavily involved in those search efforts, was found deceased by an apparent suicide on Sunday, November 24th, in a parking lot near LAX. But just this week, authorities said that after reviewing surveillance video from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, that Hannah was seen crossing into Mexico on November 12th with her luggage. Authorities said that she appeared unharmed and alone, and investigators found that Hannah had apparently expressed the desire to step away from modern connectivity. I don't know how it is they know that she expressed this, but that's what they have said in their press statements. Now, Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonnell said there's no evidence Hannah was being trafficked or was otherwise the victim of a crime. He said, and I quote, "We've basically done everything we can do at this point. She's left the country and is in another nation now." He did add that if she returns to the US, law enforcement will be notified. Now, McDonald added that she does have a right to privacy, but given what her family has been through, he publicly urged her to reach out to family or law enforcement. Moving on to kind of another big case that I know a lot of people have been following. Sarah Boone, a 47-year-old Florida woman, was found guilty of second-degree murder in October, was sentenced to life in prison on Monday. Now, during the trial, according to prosecutors, Sarah Boone had zipped her boyfriend, Jorge Torres Jr., into a suitcase, recorded a video of herself taunting him, and then left him stuck inside overnight, causing him to suffocate and die. The defense argued she suffered from battered spouse syndrome and that she was physically, sexually, and emotionally abused by Torres. In February of 2020, apparently the couple was drinking alcohol and playing a game of hide and seek, according to the arrest affidavit. And they apparently thought it would be funny to get into the suitcase as a part of the game. Now, Boone testified in her own defense for around 5 hours and said that Torres voluntarily climbed in the suitcase and she zipped it closed herself. She claimed she thought he could open it himself, but when she woke up the next morning, he was unresponsive. Now, when she was asked by a prosecutor why she didn't unzip the suitcase, she said, "I wanted him to try to understand how I felt so maybe he could progress and be a better person." Videos on Sarah Boone's phone show Torres pleading to be released, telling her he couldn't breathe, and asking her to open the suitcase. Boone can be heard responding with, "That's what you get. That's what I feel like when you cheat on me," among other taunts and laughs. Now, the last thing that I want to cover, um, is the new Netflix documentary series, Who Killed JonBenet Ramsey. Um, I don't tend to gravitate towards the big cases like JonBenet Ramsey. I of course know of it. I've listened to podcasts of it, but they just get so big that I I don't know. It's not something that I usually sit down to watch, or I'm not digging for information on these types of cases. But I wanted to watch this one, and I do think it was a very well done documentary series. Now, JonBenet Ramsey's father, John Ramsey, is heavily involved in this documentary series. So it is certainly coming from that perspective, but it really shows how the investigation into JonBenet Ramsey's murder was just completely botched from the very beginning. And if you are someone who is familiar with this case, you know that that is true. And it also shows, though, how police and investigators started the theories that the parents did it. And I mean, it's one thing to investigate the parents. I 100% get that. Um, I think that's a no brainer. They were obviously going to be investigated, but it gets into how responding officers and investigators were doing interviews and writing books about why they believed the parents did it. And I just think it really shows how the family became such a focus and how the rumors and theories just spiraled after that. Another thing that this documentary series really highlights is the media and how the media was towards the Ramsey family at that time. And I I was born in 1992. So when this happened, I obviously was not like watching the news when, all this was going on. So I was absolutely astonished watching this documentary series. The mock trial done on the Geraldo Rivera show was awful, just horrible. In one clip, they show JonBenet Ramsey during one of her performances, and she's holding a saxophone and dancing. And some woman, I don't know who she is, on this mock trial that they had on TV. It's a mock trial, right? To convict the Ramsey parents. Insane. But this woman, who claimed to be an expert, literally said that JonBenet, this little girl, was masturbating with the saxophone. And she said that she was clearly sexually stimulated. That alone, I think, just sums up how disgusting the media coverage was and how this poor little girl has been so completely sexualized. It's disgusting. And I can't believe that that was even something that was put on the air back then. It's just astonishing. On the last episode of the documentary series, they spent some time talking about John Mark Carr. And he was someone who claimed to have murdered JonBenet Ramsey. They play a number of phone calls that he had with, I think, the Ramsey's private investigator at the time. And they were very, very disturbing. Um, I have not done a deep dive in the JonBenet Ramsey case, but he seems like a pretty solid suspect. I know that they say that DNA evidence excludes him, and that's something that John Ramsey wants retested. But one thing I want to say about this documentary series, the one thing I absolutely did not like was they were playing phone calls that this John Mark Carr had with the private investigator. And I understand playing those phone calls to set the scene and show that he knew so much about the case, um, to show that he was like clearly obsessed with her and the case itself. But I think they crossed a line, and I think they went too far in how many of these phone calls they were playing. Some of them were so disturbing and so graphic. And to me, there was no reason to play, I think, the amount of the phone calls that they played besides just wanting the pure shock value of it. It's clear that this man is a pedophile. And so I don't think you need to play these explicit phone calls with him describing horrible things about what he claims to have been doing to JonBenet Ramsey. Anyways, I don't think they needed to play all of that. Other than that, I think that the documentary series was really well done. It was very informative. That is my one critique of it, and I think it's something that is really wrong in the true crime genre, is I think people take the gruesome and graphic details way too far when it's not value added, right? Like, there's a way you can talk about those things without like literally getting into those nitty-gritty details. It's just not necessary. My opinion on this case doesn't matter in any way. And again, like I've said, I have not done a deep dive, but I don't think the family did it. I don't think Burke did it. Um, I think it was an intruder. To me, that seems like the most likely theory. One of my favorite podcasts right now is the Consult podcast. It's done by a group of former FBI profilers, and they've done a couple episodes on the case. They did a few episodes where they were specifically looking at the ransom note, and two of their most recent episodes are about the case in general, and they really go in depth on the behavior exhibited by the offender. I highly recommend checking that out. I will put a link to their podcast in the description. If you have any information at all about the murder of JonBenet Ramsey, please contact the Boulder Police Department by emailing Boulder's Most Wanted at bouldercolorado.gov or by calling 303-441-1974. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today on this quick little bonus episode. Coming up, we've got two Iowa cold cases. We're talking about Dorothy Miller and Mary Bernice Lang, and those are both from Burlington, Iowa. They are some of Burlington, Iowa's oldest cold cases. I also have an episode where I sit down with Dr. Jacqueline Campbell. She is an expert in the field of domestic violence homicide and was one of the original contributors to the Violence Against Women Act. We have a really great conversation, and I really hope you enjoy it. Now, if you guys want something else, if you guys want more of these bonus episodes, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you on Sunday with our new episode. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cardinal Crimes. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing, giving us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast, and sharing this episode with others. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram with the handle @CardinalCrimes, and you can send us any case suggestions, questions, or topics you would like covered there or to our email, cardinalcrimes@gmail.com. Until next time, friends, take care of each other and take care of yourself.